So thanks for the intro. I think what Luke didn't mention is that I was a software engineer for many years before I became the lead executive of the BBD Cape Town branch. So I decided today I would share my journey in IT with you. There's a couple of highlights I think might interest you, and specifically around, being Women's Month. And let me warn you, I'm going to totally overshare in my talk, but those of you who know me would not expect any less. So I'll start at the tender age of 21. Off I went for an interview with Peter Searle, who was one of our directors, director of BBD at the time. Those were the days when Google search was a new exciting thing. YouTube did not exist, and Peter still had hair. After answering a bunch of questions, so he asked me all sorts of questions, as you do in interviews. I remember we're reaching the end, and he said to me, "So, Charlene, how much would you like to earn?" So I held my cards close to my face and I said, "Well, Peter, what is the job paying?" And he said, "No, Charlene, I want to know what sum of money is going to make you happy to come into work every day, because I like our employees to come into work happy." So I thought about it and I responded with an amount, to which Peter promptly responded, "Done, when can you start?" And I thought, shit, I should have asked for more cash. But I did leave happy. I left happy that I finally found a company that wanted me to be happy. And so my career at BBD began, with them, or us rather, throwing me right into the deep end from day one, just like all the other grads there at Vodacom. There was absolutely none of that "go gentle on the skinny blonde girl" stuff. Give her the easy stuff. No way. And I absolutely loved that. I look back with fond memories and uh, of the all-nighters that we pulled at Vodacom. Yeah, those were the days doing deployments. There wasn't a Jenkins, Azure DevOps, Bamboo, all of that. There was none of that for us back then. So sometimes we pulled all-nighters on deployments. And then there was another memory that stuck out for me at about my 4th week into the job. Kevin Staples, who probably many of you know, he was my project manager at the time. He walked up to my desk, he threw a 2-page spec at me with a very serious look on his face that meant business. And he said, "How quickly can you code this?" And I said, well, when do you need it by?" And he said, "Well, actually, Russell just told the Vodacom executives that we're going to demo it to them in 45 minutes. Shit, Kevin, is what my head was saying, but what came out of my mouth was "challenge accepted." A line that many of you who are close to me know very well. So yeah, Kevin, at that moment, he lovingly, annoyingly, sat down next to me and watched me and pointed out any code that looked a little bit off. And so it was in that moment that I realized that Kevin and I had just invented something big, something huge. We must have invented pair programming. Yes, and of course, that was the memory. We did make the deadline. It was a small spec, but it was intense. Good memories. So I remember also when Kevin moved on to a new project, he decided that I should lead the team from then on. Did he forget that I was only 22? It felt great to work for a company that saw past my skirt and my age and appreciated me for my professional abilities. This was not always the case, though. When I moved to the UK in 2007, I stayed about 6 years. I worked for a few companies there. I remember once I was on the market for a job, and after my interview, I received my job offer, which was like a lot higher than I was asking. It was like 15% more money. And I was like, what? What is going on here? This is not normal. They're not supposed to offer more. They're supposed to offer less. My agent, of course, was just, "Woohoo, this is amazing. Just take the offer immediately." And I thought, no, what's going on here? Okay. So I was a little skeptical, and I asked her to please book another interview with the boss and the tech lead who had interviewed me. because I remember getting like a strange feeling in the interview. I wasn't really sure, if it was because I was a woman or what, but I thought, let me just double check that my boss to be, is only interested in my technical skills, if you know what I mean. So I went back for this interview, and the boss to be and tech lead, they were quite amused actually. He said it was the first time that they've had a candidate who had already received an offer ask if they could come back for another interview, and he asked me why. So, it was difficult to answer that. So I said to him, well, I wanted to come and, walk through the office and have a look at the culture in the environment. And also, I would like to know, why did you offer me more money than I was asking? And he looked at me and he smiled. And his answer was very interesting to me. He said to me that he believed I would bring more to the team than just my engineering skills. He said that he believed my energy and my enthusiasm would rub off on the others, and that he believed I was worth more than what I was asking, and he wanted to be fair to me. I did suddenly at that point in time remember that in one of my computer science textbooks, there was a very interesting piece around the fact that having one woman on an engineering team vastly improves communication, and it had been, statistically proven. Apparently, but I think that moment I believed it for the first time. And I took the job. I was there for 4 years, loved it. But what was super interesting and surprising was when I left that job. Um, so my tech lead was in that interview, and at my farewell, that same tech lead came up to me and he said, Charlene, I've actually got a confession to make, and I owe you an apology. I looked at him and I was like, what's going on here? He said, that he actually believed that I wouldn't cut it in the interview. So he'd not thought that I was going to cut it. And he said that he actually thought, he judged me for being a woman. In Yeah, he just said, he actually ended up giving me the easy tasks that were kind of boring because he just, thought I wasn't going to be as good as the guys on the team. I was like, what? Oh my gosh. Wow. I mean, I didn't even notice that. I didn't even notice they were doing that. Um, I mean, I did think the job was really, a little bit easy, but I just thought they were being kind, like easing me in and letting me find my feet. And let's just be honest, coming from Vodacom makes pretty much any job look easy. Um, but yeah, I guess if I could pass on a little bit of advice there on what I learned is that maybe it's better not to concern yourself with the opinions of others, rather just like knuckle down and shine in your delivery. Your work will speak for itself. Um, Give people the benefit of the doubt until you earn your stripes. But what happens when you follow your own advice and it just doesn't work? Well, that is exactly what I found myself in, or where I found myself rather, in the following job that I took. So one day I stumbled upon this job advert. It promised to be super highly deadline driven, stressful, the pay was high, challenge accepted. So the interview was intense, hectic written exams. Yeah, it was intense. When the job offer came, it was a much higher salary than I was on. Okay. So yes, I took a job for the money. My first month was good, but then the company suddenly got bought, my project manager's contract ended, and my new boss arrived. My work dried up during the transition and it got boring. I busied myself with training and, all those things, while all the time I kept offering my new boss, um, you know, that I let him know I've got availability and I offered my services to help with any of the new projects coming up and so on. He was not a pleasant person. Passive aggressive, politely impolite. And I did not enjoy the way he implied to other people that I was his PA and asked me to book meetings for him in front of them. However, I continued to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I waited for my opportunity to let my work speak for itself. One day he called me over and he said he had a new project for me. Oh, yay, finally. Oh, now's my time to shine. And so I went to get my pen and my paper to take some notes. I walked over, I sat next to him, and with anticipation, I asked for him to please tell me about this new project. And I distinctly remember him using the word project in his response. He said to me, Charlene, your new project is to plan the team Christmas party. He was not kidding, and I was not impressed. At the time, my boyfriend then happened to propose to me somewhere around that time, and I also remember my boss calling me into a room and asking me what my career plans were now that I'm engaged. He didn't seem to understand that my career plans were not changing, and they had absolutely nothing to do with my impending marriage. He said that he assumed I would probably want a different career path now that I'm getting married and if I plan on having children. The nerve. This type of behavior unfortunately continued, and I began to suffer from anxiety, bad anxiety. I dreaded going into work every single morning, and I actually started to get physically ill. So, what did I learn there? Yes. Taking a job for the money is like marrying a man for his money. You will pay for every cent. That was my takeaway from that one. Anyway, so I got married in 2012 and I returned to South Africa, secretly hoping BBD would have me back. All of my fond memories I looked back on, which of course they did. And returning to BB&D was how I imagine it to be to return home from the front line to a lamb roast cooked by your mom while your dad pours you a cold vodka and Coke with lemon. Yes, that is how it felt. So I rejoined BB&D in March 2013, and then whoops, I fell pregnant 3 months later. Damn, that wasn't exactly planned, but BBD were amazing. They gave me all the maternity leave that I needed. And a few years later, Peter asked me to take the lead executive role of the Cape Town branch. I, of course, accepted. And then in my normal oversharing approach, I promptly informed him that I plan on having another baby. His response was that it wouldn't be a problem at all, provided my job is done well and I would be in charge of my own working days and flexibility thereof, if I succeed. I remember the first few times after that, I obviously had to do a lot more interviews, and I remember a few times that I interviewed some older male candidates who had applied for a job with us. I could always tell that they thought I was from HR and they were just wondering when the boss was arriving so that the interview could begin. At first, I felt weird about it and I thought, no, I must always invite like an older male colleague into these interviews so that the candidates feel more comfortable and, maybe they put off from accepting job offers. And then one day I realized maybe it was me. Maybe it was my own insecurities that was putting them off. And I also realized that any potential employees who have a problem reporting to a younger female have no place in this business. This business is about talent, skill, and attitude, regardless of your age, race, or religion. BBD, I come, voetstoots, and I'm not going anywhere.